Disrespect is never loud at first. It whispers, a smirk, a tone, a subtle cut. Ignore it once and you've already lost. Most people laugh it off, brush it aside, thinking it will fade away. But Machiavelli teaches us the opposite. He understood something the weak never learn. Respect isn't earned, it's enforced. When someone disrespects you, they're not just attacking your dignity, they're testing your power. They're checking if you're someone worth fearing. And every time you let it slide, you tell them the answer is no. I've studied power dynamics for years, and I can tell you this. The people who get walked over aren't always weaker. They just don't understand the game being played. They think being nice means tolerating garbage. They think turning the other cheek makes them noble. But in a world where everyone is competing for resources, attention and respect, being overly nice marks you as prey. It tells predators you're safe to attack, because you won't fight back. Today, we're diving deep into the darkest, most effective ways to handle disrespect. This isn't about losing your temper or throwing tantrums. This is about cold, calculated dominance. About becoming someone others think twice before crossing. I'm going to show you 5 psychological tactics that will completely transform how people treat you. These aren't fluffy self-help tips. They're real-world power strategies, proven, tested, and brutally effective. By the end of this video, you'll understand why silence can be deadlier than words, why consistency breeds fear, and why the most quietly powerful people are those who need nothing from anyone. You'll learn to read disrespect as intelligence, as data revealing someone's true nature, and you'll know exactly how to use that knowledge to your advantage. This isn't about becoming a monster. It's about becoming someone who commands respect without ever demanding it. Someone whose very presence draws a line that no one dares to cross. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. Disrespect sharpens my awareness. But before we begin, ask yourself this. How many times have you replayed a disrespectful moment in your head, thinking of everything you should have said? How many times have you felt that burning frustration of being treated poorly without knowing how to respond? That ends today. Today you learn the rules of a game. Most people don't even realize they're playing. The hidden nature of disrespect. Here's what most people get completely wrong about disrespect. They think it comes as a punch to the face. Obvious, direct, impossible to miss. But that's not how smart people disrespect you. That's not how the game works. Real disrespect is a snake. It slithers in quietly, disguised as jokes, teasing or innocent. Mistakes. It's the coworker who constantly interrupts you in meetings. The friend who cuts you down and laughs it off with a just kidding. The family member who waves away your opinions like they're irrelevant. Here's how it starts. They test the waters with light teasing, a joke about your appearance, choices or abilities. They're watching closely. If you laugh it off or stay silent, they learn something crucial. You're safe to attack. Next, the jokes get sharper, the dismissive gestures more obvious. They interrupt you more, start excluding you, undermining you, slowly, subtly. Each move is small enough that calling it out seems petty, but together they build a pattern of systematic disrespect. If you tolerate it, thinking you're being the bigger person, you teach them something dangerous, that you're someone who accepts poor treatment. You become their emotional punching bag, the one they can unload their frustrations on without consequence. I've watched this destroy relationships, careers, and confidence. Good people, kind people, who believed their kindness would protect them, only to find themselves surrounded by users, manipulators, and bullies. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. In his world, showing weakness could get you killed. He knew people constantly test each other, hunting for vulnerabilities to exploit. He didn't write about power in theory. He wrote about it in blood and survival. Here's the truth that the weak can't handle. Silence at the wrong time is approval. When you say nothing to disrespect, you're not being mature, you're being complicit. When you laugh along with jokes at your expense, you're not being a good sport. You're giving permission for more of the same. And when you let something slide just this once, you're showing that your boundaries are suggestions, not rules. You're signaling that you don't value yourself enough to defend your dignity. That's why some people spend their lives being stepped on, while others command respect wherever they go. It's not about luck, looks, or charisma. It's about understanding how human psychology actually works and playing the game accordingly. The people who get respect know that every interaction is a negotiation. Every conversation contains subtle power dynamics. Every relationship has an unspoken hierarchy, and that hierarchy is shaped by thousands of small moments, where respect is either given or taken. Most people are playing checkers. A few are playing chess. The checkers players react emotionally, move by move. The chess players think 5 moves ahead, building patterns that serve their long-term interests. Today, you learn to play chess. Number 1, silence as a strategy. The first weapon in your arsenal isn't words. It's silence, but not weak silence. Strategic silence. There's a world of difference. Weak silence comes from fear, confusion, or pain. It exposes vulnerability, and people can sense it, which only encourages them to push harder. Strategic silence, on the other hand, is control disguised as calm. It's the quiet confidence that unnerves people more than shouting ever could. It's power, wrapped in composure. Strategic silence is different. It's when you choose not to respond, not out of confusion or fear, but as a calculated decision. You're not hurt. You're assessing. You're making them wait while you decide if they're even worth your energy. Here's how it works in practice. Someone makes a disrespectful remark. Instead of defending yourself, explaining your point, or striking back, you simply stop talking. You look at them. You let the silence stretch, longer than what's comfortable. And in that stillness, something fascinating happens in their mind. First, they realize their words are hanging in the air, unanswered. The conversation has frozen, and it's their fault. Second, they start wondering if they crossed a line. Third, they begin to drown in their own unease. Most people fear silence. It makes them anxious. They rush to fill it with words, excuses, nervous laughter. But when you are comfortable with silence, when you can sit in it without flinching, you gain power over those who can't. Machiavelli once said, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." This silence breeds a subtle kind of fear, not of violence, but of unpredictability. They can't read you. They can't anticipate your reaction, and unpredictable people are dangerous, because no one knows what they might do next. Here's a real example. You're in a group conversation. Someone cracks a joke at your expense. Everyone laughs. The usual response would be to laugh along, make a comeback, or defend yourself. Instead, you do nothing. You look directly at the person, face calm, expression neutral. The laughter dies out. The silence thickens. And then something shifts. People begin to feel uncomfortable. The joker realizes their comment didn't land. They may even stammer, apologize, or try to explain themselves. Without saying a word, you've shifted the entire power dynamic of the room. It works because you've broken their expected pattern. They wanted you to play along with the disrespect, but you refused to participate. You became a mirror, reflecting their behavior back at them, forcing them to confront what they just did. The beauty of this strategy is that you maintain complete control. You're not reactive. You're not emotional. You're simply present. And that calm, grounded presence becomes intimidating, because they can't manipulate or predict it. Remember this: silence is not absence. Silence is control. It's the pause before the storm, the unspoken question that demands an answer. In a world where everyone is desperate to speak, the one who knows when to stay quiet holds all the power. But here's the key. Your silence must come from strength, not weakness. You're not quiet because you're hurt or lost for words. You're quiet because you're choosing to withhold your response until you decide they deserve one. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks volumes. Practice this in small moments first. When someone makes a careless remark, don't rush to reply. Pause. Look at them. Let them feel the weight of their own words. You'll be amazed how quickly people start watching what they say around you. Number 2, relentless consistency. Here's where most people destroy their own power. They're inconsistent. They set a boundary once and think that's enough. They respond firmly one time and assume people will remember. But boundaries mean nothing if they crumble the first time they're tested. Human nature is like water. It always flows toward the path of least resistance. If your boundaries have cracks, people will find and exploit them. If your standards are negotiable, people will negotiate them down to nothing. That's why consistency is everything. Not just in the big confrontations, but in every single interaction. Every time someone disrespects you, your reaction must be predictable, cold, and unwavering. No emotion, no hesitation, just quiet enforcement. Think of the people in your life who command respect. They're consistent. They don't let things slide on Tuesday and explode on Friday. They have clear standards, and they enforce those standards every single time. Now think of the people who get walked all over. They're inconsistent. They let small slights go, hoping to keep the peace. They make exceptions for people they like. They stand up for themselves only when they're in a bad mood. This inconsistency trains others to keep testing their limits. It's like playing a slot machine. Sometimes you get a reaction, sometimes you don't. And that unpredictability actually encourages more attempts. Because deep down, people want to see, will this be the time I get away with it? Machiavelli understood this principle deeply. He knew that power is repetition. Each time you enforce your standards with unwavering consistency, your reputation grows stronger. Each time you make an exception, your power weakens. So, what happens when you become relentlessly consistent? In how you handle disrespect, people begin to predict your reactions. They know that certain behaviors lead to certain consequences. That predictability creates caution, and caution always breeds respect. Let's look at how consistency plays out in the real world. Someone interrupts you in a meeting. Every single time you stop talking, look at them and wait. You don't talk over them. You don't ignore it one day and react another. You respond the same way every time, calmly, firmly, silently in control. Someone cracks a joke at your expense. Every single time you don't laugh. You don't smirk. You don't play along. Your face stays neutral, and you continue the conversation as if the joke never happened. No exceptions. Someone tries to unload their emotional problems on you when you're busy. Every single time you say, I can see you're upset, but I can't talk right now. You don't sometimes listen out of guilt and sometimes draw a line. You do the same thing every single time. Machiavelli once wrote, men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate necessities that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. The immediate necessity here is avoiding your consistent consequences. When people know that disrespecting you will always result in the same cold, predictable response, they start policing their own behavior around you. They learn that you're not someone who makes exceptions, ever. But here's where most people fail. Your consistency can't just apply to major violations. It has to extend to the smallest infractions too. The eye roll when you speak, the dismissive tone in their reply, the subtle smirk that carries quiet contempt. All of it gets the same treatment. All of it earns the same measured, consistent response. To those who are used to letting things slide, this might seem harsh. But in truth, it's far more merciful than the alternative. When people know exactly where they stand with you, they can adjust their behavior. They don't have to guess whether today is the day you'll tolerate disrespect. They already know you never will. It's the inconsistent people who cause the most chaos. Nobody knows what to expect from them. Sometimes they're doormats. Sometimes they explode. This unpredictability makes everyone around them walk on eggshells. But when you are consistently firm in your standards, people relax. They know the rules. They know what's acceptable and what isn't. This clarity doesn't make relationships harder. It makes them easier. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. My standards never bend. Start small. Pick one form of disrespect you occasionally tolerate. Maybe interruptions, dismissive comments, or someone keeping you waiting. From now on, respond to that behavior the exact same way every single time. Watch how quickly the energy around you changes. when people realize your boundaries aren't up for negotiation. Number 3. Clear and effective response. Now we reach the point that separates the truly powerful from everyone else. When someone disrespects you, your response should never be proportionate to their action. It must be disproportionate. And here's why. An ordinary response is forgettable. If someone mocks you and you mock them back, it's just another argument. If someone dismisses you and you argue with them, it's just another disagreement. Moments like that fade into the background, but when someone takes a jab at you and your reaction is total, emotionless withdrawal, that's unforgettable. When someone dismisses you and you respond by quietly creating distance, reducing access, limiting interaction, that leaves a permanent mark. This isn't about losing control. It's about using control as a weapon. Your response should be cold, deliberate, and lasting. Its purpose isn't to win the moment. It's to make sure they never forget it. Let's make this concrete. Someone makes a joke at your expense in front of others. Instead of laughing or snapping back, you look directly at them, expression unshaken, and say, "That wasn't funny." Then you turn your attention elsewhere, as if they no longer exist in the conversation. Or better yet, you don't say anything at all. You simply excuse yourself from the group entirely. No anger, no drama, no explanation, just quiet surgical detachment. No drama, no explanations. You simply become unavailable to them for the rest of the event. Here's another example. A friend consistently shows up late, showing they don't value your time. Instead of complaining or making jokes about it, you start making plans without them. When they ask why they weren't invited, you calmly reply, "I didn't think you'd want to come," since you always seem to have other priorities. The key is this. Your response should create discomfort that outlasts their disrespect. They should think about your reaction for days, maybe weeks, wondering if they went too far. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." The goal here isn't cruelty, it's memorability. When someone even considers disrespecting you in the future, they should instantly recall the last time they tried, and the cold, quiet consequence that followed. This works because it violates expectations. They expected you to play along, to laugh it off, to be a good sport. Instead, they got ice. They got distance. They got a lesson in cause and effect. Most people respond to disrespect in one of two ways. As a doormat or a bomb, the doormat absorbs it and smiles, inviting more of the same. The bomb explodes, loses control, and damages their own reputation. Both are predictable. Both are forgettable. But a cold, disproportionate response, that's unforgettable. That's the kind of response that rewires someone's perception of you. It plants a seed of hesitation in their mind. It makes them think twice before testing you again. What disproportionate consequences look like? Someone talks over you in a group setting. You don't fight for airtime. You simply stop participating whenever they're present. You're polite, but distant. They notice your absence, and the weight of it teaches them more than words ever. Could someone mocks your goals or downplays your achievements? You don't defend yourself. You stop sharing your personal ambitions with them entirely. They lose access to your inner world because they've proven they don't deserve it. A family member constantly criticizes your choices. You don't argue or try to win them over. You start limiting your time with them. You become politely unavailable for gatherings they attend. You don't make an announcement. You simply fade, quietly, firmly, intentionally. In all of these cases, the punishment speaks louder than the offense. A small slight meets a significant consequence, and that imbalance is what makes the lesson stick. It forces people to calculate the cost before they even think about crossing you again. Remember, you're not trying to be liked. You're building respect, and respect only exists when people understand there are real consequences for crossing certain lines. Those who truly respect you will appreciate your standards, because your firmness creates trust. They know exactly where they stand. Those who resent your standards, they were likely thriving on your old lack of boundaries. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. My responses send a clear message. Think back to the last time someone disrespected you and you let it slide. What would a disproportionate response have looked like? What consequence would have made it unforgettable so that it never happened again? Start applying this principle in new situations as they arise. Each time you do, you reinforce the image of someone who cannot be disrespected without consequence. Number 4, crafting the dark image. Here's something most people completely miss about power and respect. Your actions matter, but your aura matters more. The way people perceive you before you speak determines how they treat you after you speak. You need to build an image of someone who shouldn't be tested, not through aggression or loudness, but through controlled intensity, the quiet, unshakable energy that says crossing you would be an expensive mistake. This image isn't built overnight. It's formed through dozens of small, consistent signals over time. The way you walk into a room, the way you speak, measured, deliberate, never rushed. The way you handle conflict when others are watching. The way you receive both praise and criticism with equal calm. When people see you shut down disrespect with cold precision, they make a mental note. They file you under people not to mess with. That reputation starts walking into rooms before you do. Think about the people in your life who command natural respect. They don't announce their boundaries. They don't need to. Their presence communicates those boundaries for them. They don't have to threaten. They don't have to threaten consequences, because everyone already knows there will be consequences. This isn't about being intimidating in an obvious, aggressive way. It's about becoming someone who clearly has their act together, someone who knows their worth and expects others to recognize it too, someone whose time and attention feel valuable because they treat them as valuable. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. What you want to appear to be is untouchable. Someone who has better things to do than argue with people who don't understand boundaries. Someone whose respect must be earned, not assumed. Someone who makes calculated decisions about who gets access to their energy." Here's how you build that image in practical terms. You become selective about everything. Who gets your warmth? Who gets your time? Who gets your attention? Who gets second chances? That selectivity sends a powerful message that these things have value. When someone disrespects you in public, your response should be swift, calm, and definitive. No emotional outbursts, no raised voices, just cold consequence delivered with the precision of someone who's dealt with this before and already knows exactly how to handle it. People should feel a slight tension when they're about to cross a line with you. Not because you're threatening or aggressive, but because you radiate standards. You project the quiet certainty that you will enforce those standards, no matter what. Your reputation should precede you. When people mention your name, others should nod with respect, not roll their eyes, not smirk, not joke. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens through deliberate, consistent cultivation of how you show up in the world. Let's make this even more tangible. Never chase anyone's attention or approval. If someone doesn't respond to your messages, don't double text. If someone cancels plans, don't rush to reschedule. Let them come to you. Never over-explain your decisions or justify your boundaries. When you set a limit, state it once, clearly. Then enforce it without discussion. People who argue with your boundaries are testing whether they're negotiable. Show them they're not. Never tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. Every time you let something slide, you chip away at the image you're building. Every time you enforce your standards, you strengthen it. Be consistent in your energy. Don't be overly enthusiastic one day and withdrawn the next. Maintain a steady, composed presence. One that others can respect but never manipulate. The most powerful people in any room are often the quietest. They don't need to prove anything. Their presence does the talking. That's the energy you're cultivating. An aura that says, "I'm in control, I respect myself, and I don't need your approval to exist." This image will serve you in countless ways. Difficult people avoid you because they sense you're not an easy target. High-quality people are drawn to you because they recognize your self-respect. Opportunities come your way because people know you handle things efficiently, effectively, and without drama. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. My presence commands respect. From this point forward, start observing how you show up in different situations. Are you consistent? Do you project strength or neediness? Do people naturally respect your boundaries, or are they always testing them? Your answers reveal the image you're currently projecting and exactly what needs to change. Number 5, higher Machiavellian strategy. Now we move to the advanced level, the point where you stop taking disrespect personally and start seeing it as valuable intelligence about the people around you. This single shift in perspective changes everything. Every time someone disrespects you, they're handing you data, insight into their character, their insecurities and their true feelings toward you. Stop reacting emotionally. Start collecting information. Observe, record, remember. Who disrespects you when you succeed? That's envy revealing itself. Who disrespects you when no one else is around? That's cowardice. Who disrespects you to your face, but acts kind in front of others? That's manipulation, a test of control. Who disrespects you when you set boundaries? Those are the people who were profiting from your lack of them. Who gets angry when you start demanding respect? Those are the ones who thrived when you didn't respect yourself. Machiavelli once said, "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer." But first, you must identify who your enemies actually are. Many people waste years being friendly with those who secretly resent them simply because they ignored the subtle signs of disrespect that revealed a person's true nature, true feelings. This intelligence becomes incredibly valuable for making decisions about relationships, career moves, and life choices. You now know who to trust with important information, who to exclude from opportunities, and who to watch closely because they are not on your side. Let's look at how to read disrespect as intelligence. A coworker who constantly interrupts you in meetings but never interrupts the boss, that tells you they see you as lower status, someone they can dominate without consequence. They're not a person to collaborate with on meaningful projects. A friend who makes cutting jokes about your appearance but never teases. They're more successful friends. That's insecurity and resentment disguised as humor. They can't handle your wins, so they belittle what they envy. That's not someone to celebrate achievements with. A family member who criticizes your life choices but praises others for the same decisions. That reveals favoritism and jealousy. They're not a reliable source of advice because their bias is personal. Someone who respects you only when you're in a position of power, but becomes dismissive when your circumstances change. They only respected your status, not you as a person. That's not someone to count on when things get hard. This perspective shift is liberating. It removes the emotional sting from disrespect. Instead of asking, "How dare they treat me this way?" you start thinking, "Thank you for showing me who you really are before I trusted you with something important." Disrespect becomes a filter, a system that identifies low-quality people before you waste your time, energy, or loyalty on them. It's like having a built-in security system that alerts you to potential threats long before they can do real harm. Most people ignore these warning signs. They want to believe the best in others. They make excuses. Maybe they were just having a bad day. But that habit of giving the benefit of the doubt is exactly what gets them hurt. Again and again, smart people see patterns. They watch how someone treats them versus how they treat others. They notice when someone's actions don't match their words. They store that information and they act on it. Machiavelli understood that human nature is predictable once you know what to look for. People who disrespect you in small ways will disrespect you in larger ways if given the chance. Those who violate minor boundaries will violate major ones when it serves their interests. That's why treating disrespect as intelligence is so powerful. It gives you the ability to predict future behavior and protect yourself accordingly. You can adjust your trust, intimacy, and investment based on how people actually behave, not on how they say they feel about you. The beauty of this approach is that it makes you emotionally bulletproof. When someone disrespects you, you no longer take it as a reflection of your worth. You take it as information, data about their character. That shift keeps you calm, analytical, and strategic instead of reactive and emotional. People reveal their true nature in how they treat those they believe can't hurt them. So pay attention to how they treat service workers, subordinates, and family members. That's where the mask slips. That's where you see who they really are when they think there are no consequences. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. Disrespect reveals truth. From this day forward, start tracking patterns. How people treat you, how they treat others, and what that says about their true feelings. Notice who consistently shows you less respect. Ask yourself what that behavior reveals. Then use that intelligence to make smarter decisions about who deserves your time, your trust, and your energy. The psychology behind disrespect. Let me share something that will forever change how you see disrespect. Most disrespect isn't really about you. It's about them. Understanding this psychology gives you incredible power, because once you know why people disrespect others, you can predict it and counter it. People disrespect for predictable reasons. Insecurity. They put others down to feel superior. Dominance. They test boundaries to establish control or higher status. Fear. Your success threatens them, so they attack to discourage you from rising further. Habit. They've learned that disrespect gets results, so they use it by default, testing to see who will tolerate it. Here's what's fascinating. Most people who dish out disrespect cannot handle receiving it. They're used to being the aggressor, not the target. So when you respond to their disrespect with calculated coldness, they become uncomfortable, even confused. Their entire strategy collapses. Disrespectful people choose targets they believe are too weak to fight back. They count on you to either stay quiet or get emotional. If you stay silent, they win. If you explode, they still win, because now you look unstable, and they appear calm and in control. But when you respond with strategic silence, relentless consistency, and disproportionate consequences, you flip the script entirely. Suddenly they look petty. They look unhinged. They look like the aggressor, while you appear composed, dignified, and unbothered. That's why these techniques are so powerful. They work with human psychology, not against it. They turn a disrespectful person's own tendencies into weapons that backfire on them. Once you understand this, staying calm becomes easy. You stop trying to win them over. You stop trying to prove you deserve respect. You simply make it clear that disrespect toward you carries a cost they don't want to pay. Most people who habitually disrespect others are simply looking for easy targets. When you make yourself a difficult target, someone whose boundaries are firm, whose standards are clear, and whose consequences are real, they move on to easier prey. This isn't about being cruel. It's about understanding how human dynamics truly work and responding accordingly. Kind people can have boundaries. Nice people can demand respect. Good people can refuse to tolerate poor treatment. The techniques we've discussed aren't just about handling isolated moments of disrespect. They're about fundamentally changing how people perceive and interact with you over time. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but when it does, it's permanent. As you consistently apply these principles, something remarkable begins to happen. Your reputation starts to precede you. People hear about you before they meet you, and what they hear is simple. You're someone who should be treated with respect. This reputation becomes self-reinforcing. When people expect to respect you, they usually do. When they know you don't tolerate poor treatment, they're far less likely to test you. When they understand that crossing you has real consequences, they think twice before trying. And here's the truth. This doesn't make you feared or disliked. Quite the opposite. People naturally respect those who respect themselves. They're drawn to individuals with clear standards and the backbone to maintain them. They prefer dealing with people whose boundaries are steady, fair, and consistent. Think about it from their perspective. Would you rather interact with someone whose limits are unpredictable? Someone who might explode over small things but tolerate major violations? Most people find it easier, even comforting, to respect clear boundaries than to navigate the emotional minefield of someone who has none. Knowing where they stand with you makes relationships less stressful, not more. Over time, you'll start to notice something extraordinary. The quality of the people in your life improves. Low-quality individuals, the ones drawn to your old tolerance for disrespect, will naturally drift away. High-quality people, those who may have once kept their distance, because they didn't respect how you allowed others to treat you, will begin to engage more deeply. This shift compounds. You start surrounding yourself only with those who naturally treat you well, because those are the only types of people who stay. Your professional life improves, because colleagues and superiors see you as someone who commands respect. Your personal relationships become healthier, because you no longer tolerate friends or partners who fail to recognize your worth. But remember, this transformation requires patience and consistency. There will be moments when old acquaintances test your new boundaries, trying to drag you back into old patterns. There will be times you'll feel tempted to let something slide just this once. To avoid conflict, resist that urge. Every time you uphold your standards, you're making an investment in your future self. Every boundary you enforce is a deposit in the bank of your reputation. Every consequence you follow through on is a brick in the foundation of lasting respect you're building. The person who learns to handle disrespect with calculated control and strategic composure becomes someone others naturally respect, without ever having to demand it. They become someone who doesn't need to ask for better treatment, because they've created the conditions that make it inevitable.